Hello everybody and welcome to Alternative Interactions. I'm Gary. Well, today we're going to be looking at big doors and such like. As such like happens to be one of my favourite words currently. I never knew I used it so much, but I clearly do. I thought we'd entitle this one Big Doors and Such Like. So we're going to look at some very big doors and some other bits and pieces that are related to big things. And I will do obviously a second part to this. I've already done the PowerPoint for that. So, but this is going to be something that's just going to be I wonder why, and I'll leave up the what your thoughts are on this to yourselves, because I just think it's interesting sometimes to have a look at stuff and stuff that makes you go So there we go. Please like, share and subscribe. Your support is welcome and I do appreciate you all. Thank you very much. And so without further ado, we'll get on with the slideshow. So here we have big doors. Now, I mean, this is absolutely huge. You can see there's no sort of entrance part to this. We do have a grilled area for airflow, but the size of that door is absolutely massive, and you think, oh, there's not that many about, maybe that's just a one-off kind of thing, but it isn't. I mean, here we can see the door handles. Well, this lady isn't going to reach them, and nor is any man of our current size and stature. And look at the size of these doorknobs. You'd certainly hear that when they're being banged. Massive. And again, here we have the door knockers. I don't think this gentleman, even standing on the step, would be able to reach that necessarily easily and swing it back and bang on the door. And these would also have been used for shutting the door. Look at the size of this. Absolutely huge. Now, they might tell you it's for prestige, and these are only prestigious buildings. And certainly this is a prestigious building. But we can see that they've actually cut a current human-sized door into the doors. I mean, look, it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And here we have two doors, and these are internal doors. So I think this is in Russia. I should imagine this is Russian as well, part of the Tartarian Empire. We obviously have some symbology going on here as well, which we won't talk about just yet. But look at the size of these handles. This door has a secondary door here that's been cut in. Huge, huge doors. So we've got huge doors on the outside and we've got huge doors on the inside. And some more big doors. In fact, they're absolutely everywhere. More big doors. Yet more. I mean, the size of this, I should imagine it's solid oak. I mean, Absolutely huge. I mean, look at the size of this. And this door. Makes you wonder why, doesn't it? Why were doors so big? We have different styled houses in the UK, and I'm sure you do around the world where you are. And some are called Georgian. And what we find with Georgian houses is that we have double heighted rooms. So the ceiling is almost double or a third taller than what it would be normally. We notice this when we go around stately homes in the UK, that all the ceilings are far taller or far higher than they need to be, which is interesting. And I have a little story about went to a friend's wedding a few years ago, and beautiful location, and he was actually just in the grounds. There was very nice, but in the grounds of a manor house, and we got talking to one of the ladies who was organising the wedding, and she actually let us in the manor house. Not that she should have let us in there, but obviously the conversation we were having with her was so interesting, because I was able to tell her things about the inside of that house that I suspected were in there, and I hadn't even been inside it. And she said, yes, you're right, would you like to see? And so me and my partner, we went in there and we had a good look round, and what we were actually able to see very clearly was that the doorways inside this house, manor house, that was built in the 1510 or 1520s, was the date that they believed it was built. And so what we actually observed were the doors inside. If you imagine this was the inside. This part here had been panelled off and the doors squared off to make it less high, so we would have been about this height. Still a high door, but you could see all of the doors had been panelled off, and even doors that were square at the top. So if we take this line here, we would have been about this high, and what you got was this part here had been panelled. The door had been cut shorter, and they had panelled over, and you could see the cracks around the door at the top where it had been panelled to make the door frames lower. So why did they build houses with doors that big and then have the need to cut the doors at this level, panel them up, and so then this created the door of a lower height? Interesting. Perhaps it's because people built houses this big and tall because they were bigger. I know these are children, but that's a substantial amount of wood being laid on there, and I should imagine this is a very old building, because we're now going on to the such like. If you've got a big house with very tall doors, why would you need books in a library so big? Now I understand a lot of people can say these images are photoshopped, and I get that, I understand that, but we do have normal sized books here, but here along the bottom, these are very old books. That would be a large book today. These would be large books today, but these are something else. Why would you need a book that big? It would take two of you just to carry it. And you can say, yeah, okay, it's one photo. Explain this one. We clearly have a map of Italy. We have the boot, islands. I'm not sure if the modern map is actually the same as that anymore. I haven't actually looked. It's something I meant to do, but never did. But why would you need to create a book this size if we're this size? I mean, this book must be 6.5 foot tall. I'm not saying that these people are particularly tall, but say this book is 6 foot tall. Why would you need a book that's 6 foot tall? And again, you can say, yeah, it's photoshopped, it's what it is. I mean, it's even got hinged clasps to keep it shut. But we have music books that are clearly very big. There's a big book sitting there, that the size of this book, and here we have the clasp, the metal clasp bits. So they seem to be very similar in makeup, perhaps of a similar time. And I know this is a very grainy and poor photo, but again, we can see people working on a book. That's a very big book. May not be 6 foot tall, but we don't get books that big anymore. Nobody prints books that big. Here's another book with a leather folding flap over the top. Kind of reminds me of a tobacco paper where you tear it off and roll your tobacco for smoke. Both images are the same. I mean, that's what it struck me as. Was this used for rolling tobacco and smoking? But clearly, you'd have to be quite a big person to do that. And even if this is a book, it's very interesting. You see this normal size of books, and some of these books are quite big books as well in the background. And here we have another book. Again, we have the clasp systems. You can see the metal clasp bits where the leather would have gone through, or we have the writing. The size of this book is massive. 3 foot, a metre perhaps, if not more. Huge. Why would you need a book so big with doors that are so big? Maybe it's because the people were that big compared to us. Now it's interesting that we have a huge sword, huge samurai sword here. Elongated skull. You know, well, you know, who knows? It's a drawing. But that's a gun. Now I'm not sure why they would need a gun that big. I mean, it could be a gun that was used on ships or on castles, but that seems an awfully big gun even for that kind of thing, to load it and use it. Again, Is it a real gun? I'm not sure. You decide. We have the lock and flint or the cap system. A modern gun compared to that. It could have had a Pacific use. I don't know enough about guns, but this is big. But guns are a modern invention. And we've got big people, big books. So that kind of brings questions as well. But then we have big swords. So these are two Japanese swords. One has not got the hilt on it, the handle. One has. And they date back to 1447. You'd have to be pretty darn big to be wielding a sword like that. You'd have to be even bigger to wield a sword like that. Obviously the handle parts have been removed and it's just the bare bones, and we have religious significance with the cross. So when were these swords made and used? Now whether this is real or not I don't know, but we have divers holding what looks like a kitchen knife or a general knife, a food knife. I don't know whether it's a real picture or not, but it's very interesting. I mean, it looks like it's been under the water for a while. But who knows? And these, is this an art exhibition? Possibly so, because I don't think these handles are quite big enough for the sword. But that's pretty impressive. I'm going for art exhibition or some kind of feature for that one. The size of this gentleman holding a sword like that compared to a normal sized gent. Look at this sword. This man is not going to be wielding that sword. This man's not even trying. And these swords would have been used in the 1600s as an electrical battling. And I have shown this before in a previous one where I think with the early Tartarian energy, where I showed a wood slide carving from around 1500s 1600s where they clearly had free wireless electricity and they were sword fighting with sparks of plasma coming off them. I should have really included that, but there we go. Rather big chap. Now, these are human bones apparently. This is a lady. I would say she's probably, let's be conservative, 5 foot, 5 and a bit foot, 5.5 foot. That's the leg bones. This bone here. Very interesting. I mean, obviously if there's anybody in the medical profession, you can tell me I'm wrong or these are not human bones, but my assumption was, being a lay person, that these are human bones. Because if you had legs that big, you'd need shoes that big. Now I have a part 2 to this, where we're going to go further into this and look at this. Now I'm not saying there are big people, I'm not saying there's not big people, but it's very interesting that we have very big books, very big doors, and very big boots to fill. So there we go. Hopefully you found that interesting. Now I'm not suggesting that there were giants anywhere or big people, but I am, and we can see evidence of big things and such like. So part 2, and there will be a part 2 because I've already done the slideshow, we'll look at that further, and perhaps there'll be a few more skeletons in the closet to come out on that one. So thank you very much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Love, light, blessings everybody. Look after yourselves. Bye.